Honorable Minister of Education, Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana, Professor Palomo Mohammed Martin, members of the Diplomatic Corps on Ice, members of the Amerindian Research Unit, staff members and students of the University of Guyana, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor to speak with you this evening as an advocate of Guyanese Creole, also known as Creolese, and more so, a special honor to be given the choice to choose my topic to celebrate this 24th edition of International Mother Language Day. So this is my topic: make Guyanese Creole an official language. It is telling you to do something, to make something that has never happened happen. And therefore, if I'm telling you, not pleading with you, or not coach-shoring you to make that something happen, it means I know, not presume, but I know that you have the ingredients at your disposal. Drawing a simple parallel, or I could give you the option of building a house or a spaceship, your first reaction will be, if we capsize good. And then you may add, what means to do with spaceship? And you would rightly make me feel absurd. You immediately see that you can build a house since you can source the materials of land, material, etc., and that the house has a purpose. You can live in it. Yes, everything you are asked to make happen must be doable, and it must have purpose. It must be useful. No one makes something happen if it will be useless. Likewise with Guyanese Creole, to make it an official language, we must have a purpose and be very clear as to why we want it to become official. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you this evening and suggest that the purpose to make Guyanese Creole an official language is to build self-esteem and cohesion within our society. And why do we want Creolese to be official? The answer is best understood by considering what will happen if we leave it unofficial. I will develop these 2 points later. First, let us have a look at the ingredients which would go into the pot to make Creolese official. I have placed them into 3 categories: old, newish, and in between. Centuries ago, my ancestors did most of the work. They were captured and left Mother Africa with them 2 long hands. But Mother Africa had sent them with her only gift, a collection of languages, fundamentally from West Africa, which couldn't be whipped out or killed. She made sure that that gift was embedded inside their essence, their very being, to help them survive and remember home. Wherever our ancestors were dropped, they created a language from the African grammatical roots. Next slide. Here in Guyana, despite many odds, they kept their oral tradition alive and created various Creole languages, depending on who was the enslaver at the time. They created, next slide, the Burmese Dutch Creole, the French Creole, and the English Creole. The last one we now call Creolese, and it has the richness of contributions from all 6 races in Guyana. The old ingredients they bequeathed have inputs like nyam, which means to eat, stand good, a phrase taken from Burmese Dutch Creole, means to stay well, and the ancestors' prophets are still filled with wisdom, which we use every day. Do you know anybody who's been creating new proverbs? Or those that they left are eternal? Nothing has been lost. All the vital knowledge and wisdom has been retained in the languages we created, because that is where vital knowledge is stored. Next slide. Then came the newish ingredients. Creole linguistics, educators, Dictionary of Caribbean English Usage, CAVE, GLU writing system for Creolese, Guyanese Creole alphabet card, a concise grammar of Guyanese Creole policymakers. And you will notice there's an empty slot to be filled. What is missing? Most of these newish ingredients were created and developed because our world shifted from oral tradition to the written word. I ask you, will we, by making Guyanese Creole official, be reaching for the zenith of what we can do with Mother Africa's gift, or will we turn our backs? In other words, they brought us the oral tradition, what they knew. Now we have mastered the ingredients of the written tradition. Can we now wrap the two together and bind them into an official language? Or will we let them decide? Will we finish the race? These ingredients, and perhaps more, are, in my estimation, geared to make Guyanese Creole official. To be understood, let me say that I admit this officiality of Creolese may not have been the intended purpose of the creators of Creole linguistics or the authors of those words. But as an advocate for Guyanese Creole, I found in them another purpose than academia. For me, academia must be useful, and I'm offering how I think this can be done. We now have the bulk of what we need: a Creole grammar, a writing system, a dictionary, and Creole linguists. My in-between ingredients cannot fit flush into either category, old or newish. They include the print media, broadcast media, and the internet. In all of these, we had and have entries with Creole flavored phrases, proverbs, and columns, which are accepted and not scoffed upon. Most times, these are used for entertainment, advertisement, and by political parties outside of Parliament. And only once in a blue moon do we find them producing and promoting Creolese in a positive way. There are exceptions, and the one that stands out is Uncle Stapy. His writings of Uncle Stapy on the people in the Sunday adversary prior to, during, and after World War II have brought us a long way and blended all three categories of ingredients. But when it comes to embracing the properly spoken Creolese person, who will raise their hand? And yes, just as you can be asked to speak English properly, there is something called speaking Creolese properly also. However, these in-between ingredients have helped. We got encouragement to go further. And because of this, we now know the following. Creolese is read widely, and so on. But the question still remains, why have not we yet filled the empty slot? What or who is that space for? I have only part of the answer. Next slide. No. You bring back the newish ingredients. It's the next one. That empty slot belongs to the most meaningful ingredient. It is only when we fill that slot that we can seek to add the final ingredient, the policymakers, and start the pot. Influencers, misconceptions, and disbelief are the main culprits why that slot has not been filled. Now, where do you think most of the negative influencers are residing? Here in Guyana or outside of Guyana? The answer is both. But I will begin with an example from Jamaica, West Indies. Next slide. Next one. This is a screenshot from the Jamaica Gleaner written on September 8, 2022, by columnist David R. Salmon, a Jamaican UWI Mono graduate with a degree in public policy and management. Note, public policy. And now he's a 2023 Rhodes Scholar. He wrote a critique about the Jamaican bilingual program run by the University of the West Indies, Jamaica Language Unit. He gave the opinion about that and many other things. But ladies and gentlemen, my focus here this evening is not what he wrote, which is his right. But I'm more concerned with his caption, "We don't want your patois, UWI." Now, the Jamaica Cleaner newspaper was established in 1834. Look at that year carefully. 1834. Does that year ring a bell? It was the year slavery was abolished and before the 4-year apprenticeship began, to help the slave masters regroup the expected loss of their income. Let's put this into perspective. The newspaper was established by the colonials who whipped their slaves, Mr. Salmon's ancestors included, to speak English properly and to forget their native language. Now me take and ask you for look on this. Take away 1834 from 2022. Where you get there? Next slide. 188 years. After 188 years, who is keeping that perception alive? To not embrace the Creole language to become official. To not start planting a seed which will germinate and blossom and bear fruit, depending on how much we tend to it. You tell me if that column in the leading Jamaican newspaper less than a year ago hasn't got an influence. And you decide if it's a touch of influence or much more. Next slide. In 2001, this gentleman, V.S. Naipaul, who was a Trinidadian British writer, won the Nobel Peace Prize for literature. He was alleged to have said, and I'm paraphrasing, that the West Indies created nothing. As a friend said to me jokingly, he was indirectly saying that he wasn't creative. But my point is that many impressionable minds and influencers in the Caribbean and the world around believed and agreed with Sir V.S. Naipaul, and some still do. It was the same thing said about Berbice Dutch Creole, that it never existed, never was created, and that perception was believed and repeated by many powerful influencers until Professor Ian Everard Robertson stepped forward and challenged that orthodox view and proved them all wrong. He discovered Berbice Dutch Creole. All three culprits, next slide, the negative influencers, the misconceptions, and our disbelief are family. The nuclear family of a very, very, very large extended family that are holding back the filling of that empty slot in the newish ingredients list. While there are many misconceptions planted in all our minds about making Guyanese Creole official, I chose this one in keeping with this year's theme of International Mother Language Day. Next slide. The misconception is that an official language in Guyana comes down to a toss-up between Guyanese Creole and Standard English. Some years ago, I asked the headmaster, who was fluent in Creolese, can you share your thoughts about making Creolese an official language? He didn't hear my question. Instead, he heard this, that I wanted to promote Creolese as a substitute for Standard English. The subconscious mind was very much in play here. Yes, he answered me from there. And he went on to detail all the obstacles to surmount if this were to be done. He gave me a litany of excuses. Some were rewriting textbooks, doing written examinations, filling job applications, taking marriage vows, that there were so many different types of Creole spoken in Guyana. You needed only one to make it official. But whichever one was chosen, it would dominate the others and bring this harmony. He went on and on and on. Our children will be able to study overseas. He wanted his children to go to the University of Oxford in the United Kingdom. Oh, his list was so long that I realized he must have thought about this in very great detail at some time and saw it as a possibility at one time. But now he felt powerless. Was this paralysis in action? I couldn't help feeling that his response was and is reflected in a large percentage of our educators, the main influencers in our society. If you think of the multitude of obstacles to do something, you are unlikely to do anything, much less complete anything and achieve anything. Try it. Keep repeating all the finer details of why something you want done cannot be done, instead of focusing on the purpose and benefit of doing it. And see how the brain will help you to believe it is not possible. It is not doable. That voice you will hear inside of you will be loud and persuasive and most of all, constant. Next slide. We hear, read, and see Creolese in all three of the facets where an official language is used. But when it comes to making Creolese official, there is silence. I asked the headmaster why he spoke Creolese. Guess what he said? He said that he was raised in a village and that was all they spoke, and that he loves how Creolese flows off his tongue in a way English does not. And so he likes it. And then, in what I interpreted as an attempt to redeem himself, he offered, well, Creolese can be used in schools to acquire literacy in the English language. And after that, he said nothing more. Our conversation was over, and he now seemed angry. I wondered if he was angry with me for having the temerity to raise the question. This evening, let's come to that headmaster's misperception by asking, why must it be only one or the other? Next slide. Why can't Creolese be one of the official languages of Guyana as we embrace our bilingualism and multilingualism, sharing the platform with our indigenous brothers and sisters? Why must we only use Creolese to acquire literacy in English? Yeah, man. We got the gumption. I dare to add, that is I pass. Why would you take African grammar roots that have survived centuries and use it to teach something that is not nearly as old and which also started as an oral tradition and went through some very rough patches to reach its zenith? I'm talking about the English language. Does that sound right to you? Where is our self-esteem? Where is our sense of purpose? Whose memory will we choose to be quick? Next slide. One reason for the spiraling increases in the ills in our society today may be because the Guyanese Creole is not official. Some people are unable to express themselves efficiently and effectively in English. If you allow them to do that, they can build self-esteem and be heard and not tolerated. Here is a list of some of the ills of the society. Next slide. I want to take a brief look at the health issues. There's a radio program on the government radio. It's called Lil Mosquito, which gives advice about fighting malaria. Breakthrough Action, an international organization, has partnered with our Ministry of Health to improve malaria outcomes in the gold mining hinterland regions where malaria is endemic. So, some policy makers got the memo. They realized from their research and accepted that using Creolese was the best and only way to reach the gold miners. Then during the COVID pandemic, there were health tips given in Creolese and all the indigenous languages on the TV and on the radio. So, here again, somebody got the memo. Our policy makers had to give the okay. So why do they stop there? Why do they stop just like the headmaster stopped, which is that to use Creolese enhance literacy in English? When are we going to stop using Creolese for every other purpose that is rightful purpose as an official language? Now, we use it to fight an epidemic, we use it to fight a pandemic. Then why can't we go further and embrace the larger scope of these languages to become official? Next slide. Most Guyanese consider Creolese as being flavored with English, as on the screen. But drunk or sober, mind your number. Creolese is Creolese. Them linguistics banners, them got couple word well for this thing, basilectal, mesolectal, apolectal, and them kind of thing for explain dialectic variations and stuff. But for me, all are considered Guyanese Creole language. However, it is the working class who is persistently discriminated against because of using the embedded language Creolese. They're the ones who are bullied to speak English properly. It is my opinion that that happens because they don't talk Creolese proper. And it causes problem. People don't like hearing proper Creolese. And that is why that slot has remained empty. What do you do with the bee in your bonnet? You either kill it or you set it free. You decide which you would choose. In the meantime, let us fill that empty slot. Next slide. Now, you need a slide that fills in the ingredients with the empty slot. Okay, right, there it is. When Guyanese Creole becomes legal, no one will have the right to tell you to do these things. Next slide. No, you're missing. Shut up, sit down, dress down, and most of all, the caller brings somebody who speaks English properly. While the ills of the society would remain, I guarantee you, they will become less or manageable across all races and ages and locations in Guyana. In concluding, the gentleman, Mr. Salmon, the UWI graduate, also wrote his column in the Jamaican Gleaner about giving his 15-year-old brother the Jamaican Patois version of the New Testament to read. Next slide. He claims that the teenager picked through a few things and then stopped. He found no purpose in continuing, Mr. Salmon went on. He drew his conclusion that the translated version of the New Testament was useless, since no one could use it or find it difficult to do so. I have my own story to share. In 2018, when I did the introduction to writing Guyanese Creole, and I was many decades older than Mr. Salmon's 50-year-old body, Teacher Charlie used to give me a steady F. Me had problems spelling it bad. And because of that, me used to read and pick things. Even the Creolese that I wrote, when I'm trying to read it, I would pick. What did I do? I believed in the writing system. I was sure it was doable. I felt deep within my essence, my being, it had a purpose that I could use. I then had to speak to the brain. I decided to give the brain some new circuits. Notice I didn't attempt to rewire those circuits by trying to remove the English language circuits and replace them with Creolese circuits. No. I made new brain circuits by repetition. Each opportunity I got, I spoke about the Guyanese writing system. And I worked on my Creolese. I worked on my Creolese spelling and writing. I haven't been given an A+ yet. I'm now from F to C grade, meaning I'm average. But one day come the day. Means forget distinction. But then something happened. Didn't just happen, continued happening. A colleague and friend sent me a novel which he told me was written in pure Creolese. Notice his term, pure Creolese. I interpreted this to mean that it was written in well-written Creolese. Guess what happened? I couldn't read it, and I was again picking through what he wrote. I finally ended up reading the English version. His Creolese novel was done on the foundation of the English language alphabet system. Now, I'm neither a linguist nor am I an educator. All I have is common sense, and I have an explanation for that. For years, we have wired the brain for the English language. For decades, we have used the English alphabet to write Creolese. So, for example, in some English words, the H is silent. For example, honor and ghost. But we just dash in H in everything because the A is silent, and we have missed the people's rules for making the H silent. So like in ghost, after a G, the H is silent. This is what we do. We just put H anyway and every place. Check it out. Next slide. That's one of my favorite parts in the newspaper. But that is where the problem lies. We should not use English to write Guyanese Creole. As Professor Hubert Devenay said, English is not French, despite it having a fair share of French words. Likewise, Creolese is not English, despite it having a generous amount of English words. Today, we have our own alphabet card. Next slide. Next slide. Let us use it to write Creolese, the Creolese way. Let us work with the positive influencers. Let us challenge our misconceptions, and let us believe in ourselves. And then we can approach the policymakers. I know some of you will tell me, you can carry horse your water, but you can't make it drink. Next slide. But I say this, I'll tell you a secret. If you make the horsey thirsty, real thirsty, bad thirsty, he's for drink. Find a way to do that, just as they did with Haitian Creole and in Curaçao for Papiniente. Let's find a way to feel our bilingualism, Creolese and English. Next slide. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have a dream, I have a taste. I have a taste that all the ingredients to make Guyanese Creole an official language will be finally added to the pot. Thank you for your time.